Hello everyone, Lowko here. Hello everyone, Lowko here, and welcome to a best of 5 series of Terran versus Protoss. I'm very excited for this match because it's gonna be played on the new maps with the new multiplayer balance patch as well. This particular series is between two of the very best players in the entire game. It's the finals of this week's ESL Open Cup for the European server, and as of me casting it, if you're watching the video on the day that it goes up, it was played yesterday. So this should give us a very good overview as to what this matchup currently looks like. Now, of course, the new patch, it was mostly introduced to address this particular matchup. At the highest level, it seems to be ever so slightly Terran favored, and well, even though all of the changes are relatively minor, it should make it a bit more playable for our Protoss. So spawning right here in the top right-hand corner in game number 1 on a map called Dynasty. Playing with the red Protoss pieces, we have none other than MaxPax, and his opponent in the opposite corner with the blue SCVs, he goes by the name of Clem. If you're a fan of Terran versus Protoss, it really doesn't get much better than these two playing against each other. And obviously, they have played against one another many times, so they know exactly what the opponent is capable of. Now, one thing that we haven't really talked about all too much is the effect that new maps have on the balance of the game. So obviously the new balance changes, I mean, we have relatively small adjustments. For example, the Liberator ranged upgrade, it's -1 compared to where it used to be with, you know, the advanced ballistics research. The Widowmine, I guess, has gotten the most significant changes, where it's just a little weaker overall, but it's still very powerful. The Cyclone, once again, got a bit of a rework. Basically what I'm saying, though, is that all of the changes are relatively minor. One thing that the community of StarCraft 2 hasn't really discussed all too much is the new maps. So the new maps are weird, and if I were to make a guess, I think the new maps are probably gonna have a more significant impact on the balance than the actual balance patch, because these maps are a little bit funky. Now, would you look at this already? So Dynasty features an in-base golden expansion that has two different ways of taking it. You can either take it on the left or you can take it on the right over here. Now, every single player that I've seen play on this map so far, at this level at the very least, has taken the gold base as their very first expansion, because it just gives you such a big eco boost. But right from the get-go, this is gonna create an entirely different dynamic for the matchup. So MaxPax knows that he's being bunker rushed. Clem, I mean, he has got ranged units, obviously, but is he really gonna be able to do any damage? Cyclone coming up on the back of this, second to Reaper 2. I think Max is gonna be okay. As long as he, like, saves energy for a battery overcharge, he should be okay against the Reapers? The Cyclone, however, so this unit is a little different once again. Difficult to really say if it's a buff or a nerf, but once that one comes across the map, things do get a little bit sketchy. It's a Stargate follow-up right here for MaxPax, so at the very least, he should be able to get, like, if he really needs to, he could even go for a Void Ray, but I don't think he will. Battery overcharge being used right now, second shield battery coming up. And you know, we can talk about balance all we want, but this is something you could not do in the previous patch just because of the maps. And this alone is gonna change the entire dynamic of the rest of this game. I don't believe this is gonna be ending anytime soon. And I think this is probably more significant than any balance change we will really see come into play in the rest of this particular match. So here's the Cyclone showing up. Third shield battery also, though, being produced here from MaxPax. He did get the kill on the bunker, so that was not salvaged. Okay, batteries here for now out of energy. It's 3 probes here in total. Looks like the Oracle has been rallied towards the other side of the map. So while we have a dance going on between all of these units, we'll have to see whether or not Clem actually has some defense as well, ready to go. So he's taking the golden minerals here eventually. Orbital Command finishing up right now. Okay, that's 1 kill. Second kill. Do we have anything inside of the main base? Look, looks like it's actually a siege tank follow-up immediately, so no second Cyclone. Okay, not bad right here by MaxPax, who's gotten himself a really nice economical advantage. Reapers trying to go around. Good positioning right here on these structures, though, by MaxPax. No easy route available to go behind the mineral fields. Okay. Now, of course, over the next couple of weeks, I will, well, actually, the next couple of years, hopefully, but over the next couple of weeks in particular, I will try to bring you the very best games of StarCraft 2 that are currently being played. especially right now with the new multiplayer balance patch. It's a very exciting time to be a StarCraft fan, so if you aren't subscribed to my channel already, do make sure you hit that sub button down below this video so you get notified as soon as future videos go live. If you want to help me out, an easy way of helping me promote this video and maybe even reach new audiences in 2024 would be for you to hit the like button. Relatively easy thing to do. I know it's annoying whenever, you know, YouTubers ask, but it really does help. Blink about halfway done at this point. I think MaxPax is ready to return to favor right now on the other side. Now, it looks like the Reapers have found a way in. There's a little jump-up location over here, too, in that pocket base. Okay, so how many workers are they going to be able to get? Quite a few. Yeah. Nicely done right here by Clem. Okay. So I think the Stalkers are going to try and return to favor over here, aren't they? There's already a siege tank set up, though. Stimpak combat shields. All of that will be finishing up momentarily. Siege tank relatively well protected. Ooh. Well, I was gonna say, I don't think you can leave that tank by itself, because Blink is finishing up in just a few seconds. We all know how lethal MaxPax can be. He decides to go across immediately as that upgrade finishes up. Not sure if I love it. Okay, 2 Stalkers going down. 3rd Stalker. Okay, will stay alive here. I think it's 3 Stalkers now in total. I think only 2 over here, right? He must have lost another one at some previous time. Anyways, only just now, 6 minutes into the game, is when we finally see a starport. So far, this early game, it's been okay for Clem, but he needs to be careful, because over the next couple minutes, he will start falling behind. A very aggressive opener by Clem, and so far, it really hasn't worked out all too nicely. MaxPax is already saturating a 3rd, whereas Clem is only just now really fully saturating a natural expansion. Now, of course, that does mean, if you look at the supply count, that Clem's army is absolutely massive. Love the usage right here of these Stalkers on the high ground, poking at whatever he can, trying to just deal damage wherever possible. I wonder if you should have a sentry over here on this bridge. I feel like that's... That seems like a no-brainer, actually. I guess you could go the other way around, but if you're trying to buy time, that would be a really nice addition. Okay. Now, Charge is only about halfway done. There's no Metavex to support these Marines and Marauders, and they want to fight all of these Stalkers straight up. MaxPax trying to buy time here until that Stimpak wears off, but they do decide to run back to the safety of the tank. 3rd Command Center about maybe 3/4 or so of the way done at this point. I think it's time for Max to go home, to be honest. He doesn't know when Charge is finishing. He doesn't know how frequently it's been chrono boosted, but Charge would make it very easy for the Protoss to clean up these units. Clem decides to sit over here in the middle of the map. Observer, a little bit cheaper, a little tankier, a little bit bigger as well. Okay. It doesn't quite see that entire army, but he knows it's still out there. MaxPax thinking about making a 4th Nexus over here. Okay, moves the probe on over towards the right side of the map. I think that's a good choice, and now Charge is done. Overextension right here by Clem. Still, obviously, though, in this choke point, yeah, I was talking about maybe a sentry. I mean, there is a sentry available now, but obviously, if you can have all of those zealots funnel in there, the Marines and Marauders are going to have an easy time. Jimmy! Jimmy, no, don't do it! Jimmy is taking his job as probe killer very serious, but ultimately, he does end up going down. Yeah, so the most significant change of anything, really, with the new patch is, of course, the Widow Mine. And so far, Widow Mines have not really been played yet. We have a couple right now coming up on the production tab. There is one here available at this point in time. It's still going to be a powerful unit, but I don't think it's really going to matter that much at the highest level, to be honest. This is lovely, though, here by Max. Okay, he does end up losing a bunch of units at the front. Maybe a bit over-eager. Sentry there ended up falling, not really achieving all too much, but this is a substantial amount of damage done right now by our Protoss player, and well, Clem's economy really hasn't been anything to write home about. 4th Nexus, by the way, is coming up in the middle right now, in the middle of all of those Protoss bases. And I think for the next, yeah, for the foreseeable future, our Protoss should be in a good spot. Now, this is a scary attack. Prism, a little bit far forward, but does end up keeping it alive. Battery overcharge, also very handy. He's going to start target firing down as many of these Metavex as possible. 7 probes have fallen. Colossus now also coming up. This is brilliant. Brilliant StarCraft. Super action-packed. No turtling. And that's all because of the new maps. I do enjoy a turtle game from time to time, but I think this is also very exciting. Alrighty, so real quick, Widow Mines, exactly what has changed? Well, first off, they deal less splash damage. So their splash damage has gone down a little bit. That is significant, especially for clumped up units, like, for example, Zealots. Secondly, and maybe more importantly, the units are easier to see and easier to micro against. So there's a little line that grows thicker and redder the closer the unit is to firing. So you'll probably see it here in just a moment. When the Widow... Oh, here's one. You saw that? So the Widow Mine line becomes red and thick, and then it becomes easier to spot and micro against. Plus, you now get the notification that you're under attack by a Widow Mine when the units start lining up its, well, line. Colossus over here, overextended. Okay, MaxPax sleeping on the job just a little bit. Busy microing on the other side. He can't really afford losing this base, but I think with the Zealots coming in from the flank, he should be all right. Yeah, I really like that visual change. Zealots, by the way, still going to town. This is great. Nicely done by MaxPax. Ooh, yeah, I was going to say, if you fire with those Widow Mines, you're going to get a lot of friendly damage done. All right. Pocket base is starting to run relatively low. Main base is starting to run relatively low. Overextension over here at the third base. Fifth Nexus has started up. MaxPax is getting to a point where he can easily outgrow his opponent. And now this Terran army here at the bottom of the map is being caught off guard. We do have the Zealots running away as well. Clem cannot really catch a break. You know what? I don't get to say this very frequently, but I believe that Clem is being outplayed. Yeah, this entire game, he's been playing well, but MaxPax has been playing, well, slightly weller. Sorry, I like to bring a little bit of consistency to the English language sometimes. He's been playing a little bit better. Colossi show up right now. No way for Terran to really start up another command center. And at this point, I think MaxPax, even though he's been playing defensively, in a weird way, GG is cold, in a weird way, he's managed to soft contain his opponent on just 3 bases. Brilliant example right there of what we can expect with the new patch. Alrighty, next up we find ourselves on a much more familiar map called Oceanborn. Remember when this map was first introduced and I was just, well, going off on that stupid shadow at the bottom of the map? I kinda like it now. My main problem with this gigantic shadow of Ocean, bro, is that it's only at the bottom of the map. So at the top section in the natural right over here, MaxPax will not have that shadow flying around. But it turns out, even though it is absolutely enormous, I've learned to ignore it. That's what she said. Yeah, no, okay. Anyways, Ocean Bro over here flying around. I guess swimming around, rather, is a better way to put it. And he is quite distracting initially, but when you've played enough games. I even tested if I drop the graphics of StarCraft 2 all the way down to the lowest of the lowest of the low. Is the guy still there? It's still there. Yeah, I believe Ocean Bro, by the way, the guy that is actually flying around is somewhere over here. I'm not exactly sure, but there's like a little thing, like about that large, flying around at the bottom of the map. And from what I understand, it mimics the exact movement of Ocean Bro. And that is ultimately what is casting a massive shadow. Yeah, small things can cast massive shadows. That's another thing that she said. Anyways, Jimmy has been tasked with killing the Zealot. Very brave. If you think about it, if the Marine in a full suit is probably like at least like, I don't know, how tall would a Marine in a full suit be? Probably like close to 2 meters, right? Like probably at least 6 foot. That Zealot is huge. Luckily, they managed to get him down here eventually. This time around, no shenanigans with the Stargate here from MaxPax. Instead, he's decided to go straight into the Twilight Council. Got ourselves the Hellion coming up. Starport on the back of this. So we're about 3 minutes earlier this time around on the starport. And also, of course, the economy here for our Terran is going to be quite a bit nicer. So what set Clem off on the wrong trajectory in that previous game, as we do have, okay, a little bit of a skirmish here at the front. Clem scouted that his opponent decided to go for a quick gold base, and he wanted to try and see if he could deal with it. So he went for a double gas opener, delayed his own economy, and ultimately found himself in a position where, yeah, he did deal a bit of damage over at the golden base, but it also slowed down his own build. And because of that, he ultimately actually fell behind because of that choice that he made. And that is a very specific thing that you would only do on a map like, for example, Dynasty. Maybe over time we will learn, and this is going to require probably hundreds, if not thousands of games that we'll see at the tournament level. Over time, we may very well figure out that harassing that gold base is actually not worth it. Like, there may just be a quote-unquote perfect way to defend against that sort of thing. So, yeah, maybe players will decide, okay, no, I can actually never go for the aggression. Or maybe we'll decide the exact opposite. That taking the gold base first, as your very first base, is actually impossible. Maybe there are attacks that Terran can go for that would just straight up shut it down. I'm sure there are. But we're still very much so in the experimentary? Sure. We're still in the phase where we are experimenting with loads of different strategies. And yeah, you can't really draw any strict conclusions off of this particular series just yet. Alrighty. Widowmine going into the main base. Together with Jimmy, Mark. Oh, can we see the line? I think this is a good example of the line. Unless we rally all of the probes, which we shouldn't do. Hello. Okay, here's the line. You wanted to wait until Blink was done. So it's nice though, right? It really does make it significantly easier to micro against. MaxPax goes for a third Nexus here. Not really bothering with any hyper aggression. It's going to be a triple gate into a expansion. Now this is of course that point in Terran versus Protoss where Terran is the one who gets to sit back for a while. Until Stimpack is done, maybe combat shields, +1 infantry weapons, the whole shebang. Usually Terrans will be playing relatively passively, and this is going to be the time where MaxPax gets to do whatever he likes. Now there is a medevac out, and there is still also that Raven. Raven also, small little nerf. It can no longer chain the interference matrix. Looks like we had a couple of stalkers pushed here at the back. But yeah, this is that lull in TVP. Most matchups seem to have a lull at like, you know, until like minute 4. Interestingly enough, usually TVP from like minute 2 until minute 4 is pretty action-packed. And then after, you know, when we see a normal game like this, after that, usually it becomes a little bit more passive until Terran finishes up their Stimpack. Okay. Forge coming up as well. Twilight Council. No research on charts just yet, but we will be seeing that one in just a little bit, I'm sure. So one thing I've seen MaxPax do quite a bit is focus on that mass Zealot Stalker-based army. So it's a triple gas opener here. I wonder if he's going to be taking the gases at the third base first, or if he's going to be taking a fourth base before considering taking these gases. He's been experimenting with that style in particular, but usually he does get a fourth gas with it, which is kind of interesting. I think this may just be mass gateway, and maybe even more mass gateway than, well, the alternatives. Yeah, we add 5 additional gateways right now, which is going to make a total of 8. And I guess the fourth gas has been delayed and goes down over at the third base instead. Okay, so 1 gas taken in the natural, 1 gas over at the third, both gases in the main. Small deviation. But I'm assuming that this is going to be a mass unit production type of game where MaxPax is essentially taking a Zerg's approach to dealing with Terran bio. So he knows it's going to be difficult to trade efficiently. So instead, well, we're just making a load of stuff and we're going to try and see if we can overwhelm our Terran. This is that moment though, where Clem has finished up everything. And holding this particular push is really, really dangerous. It's not an easy task here for the Protoss, although infantry weapons are finishing up right now. Third command center also finishing up, so Clem could actually decide to sit back. Thing is, he's been building up a massive army for a while. Ooh, recall. Don't love that recall, to be honest, but apparently he wanted to have those units at home. So, question is there enough for MaxPax to defend? Because ultimately, he is going to get an awful lot of aggression done. And in the next couple of minutes, he will outgrow the Terran. These Zealots, though, are really putting a timer right here on Clem. He needs to get something done within the next 10 seconds. So far, Siege Tanks trying to creep forward in the direction of that Nexus. Looks like reinforcing Terran units did eventually kill those Zealots, but This has really slowed down the attack here from Clem, and I think that's good for MaxPax overall, but MaxPax really does need another warp in or two. Okay. Battery overcharge. Yeah, trying to just keep alive whatever he can. Couple zealots here on the other side of the map. Clem really wished that he could have moved those siege tanks ever so slightly forward. If they are within range, I think it should be okay. 7 additional zealots, by the way, do get warped in. So yeah, they're in the natural to set up a bit of a flank. You're gonna have to pull the trigger here as Protoss at some point. Now the Colossus is out. Another Colossus is on the production tab. Widow mines are set up everywhere though, so these zealots are gonna have to flank. If Clem sees these units, he should try and take them down for sure. Looks like there is some rain. Oh, there's some vision right here from the photon cannon. Fair enough. Armory, by the way, no longer cloaks all of these Widow mines. Drop in the main base to create even more chaos. Zealots are gonna go for the run-by instead. This slow push here from Clem. Clem is like, come on, bro. Charge at me. Max was like, nah, I don't really feel like it. Kills a couple of SCVs. Main base has been deflected as well. Clem at this point, though, is looking absolutely tremendous. Like, this is so much bio. The Colossi just don't have their ranged upgrade yet, and I'm really not liking this Protoss army very much. He decides to oh my god, walk into it. So much damage being done. I love that anti-armor missile right there from that Raven. Interference matrix, nice and all. But what about we just soften up the entire army? And just like that, Clem is finding himself with a 60 supply lead, and he's not even done yet. There's a ton of reinforcements, by the way, set up on the other side of the map. I think it might be time to send at least some of those units across. Although, why take the risk? Double robo facility available right now for MaxPax, who's ready to, boost out a bunch of those Colossi. Yeah, you have to pull the trigger at some point. But I don't know if that was necessarily the perfect moment. Maybe it was already a little bit late. Maybe waiting until the ranged upgrade for the Colossus was done was an option, but it's so dangerous. Okay, brilliantly done right here by Clem. He's brought the rest of his army across. Now he's got a bunch of Vikings in the mix too. Pretty much all the Stalkers have been killed in that previous engagement. So the Vikings are having a grand old time picking off the Colossi. And honestly, without Colossi, this army is quite pathetic. The dance does continue. But now we're talking 3-base Terran Eco versus 3-base Eco for our Protoss. And, well, in the previous game, we had a great example as to what happens when Protoss has a much better economy than the Terran. In this game, the economies are pretty much even, and MaxPax is very far behind. Nearly a 70 supply deficit right now for the Protoss. A little less than that, but at least when I started that sentence, it was. Dang. Sorry about that, Jimmy. Clem is playing with his food a little bit. He doesn't want to take any chances, so fighting into shield batteries is risky. And obviously, Terran still can have... Like, your Marines are pretty soft, alright? Easy unit to lose. He's added in a bunch of ghosts as well. The only thing I don't love right here for Clem is the upgrades. I think the upgrades are pretty slow. Maybe a second engineering bay would have been a possibility. 4th command center about halfway done at this point. He's trying to find another angle. Ooh, well, that is one way of coming back. There goes Jimmy, by the way, floating to the surface. I think disruptors are a great choice. It's just kind of like Zerg versus Terran, you know? Protoss needs to be a base up on the Terran most of the time. It's not quite as extreme as for Zerg. But for the game to be doable for Protoss, you do kind of need to have a decent economy. Okay, there he fires up the Nexus. He agrees, apparently. He knows that this is a desperate time. Loses another Colossus. But he knows that this is a desperate time and that he needs another base here pretty soon. Clem just still solidly sitting with such a massive advantage. I do really like the disruptors here. Like, if you need a comeback mechanic, I think disruptors are a great choice. A couple of feedbacks here on the Ghost. Great work right there by MaxPax, by the way. Oh, he really is doing a phenomenal job here. Great blink. Ooh, dude, I'm starting to believe a little bit. Oh, he's actually stabilizing. I still think he's super dead, but rarely do we see Protoss actually deflect that entire Terran army. Okay. So Clem has actually been pushed away. And he managed to sneak out a 4th Nexus. These last 3 minutes or so have been some of the most impressive Protoss gameplay I've ever seen. Which I know is funny because he's losing the match. I don't think he's gonna win. But how many times have I casted games where Terran just sort of overwhelms and Protoss just sort of fizzles out? He's lost 3 Colossi this game. I think if he would have reduced that to like 2 or 1, this may have actually even still been quite playable. Now that EMP is huge. Oh, gets a good EMP. Or, sorry, a good Purification Nova. And he's actually gonna go and commit to a push. A lot of Archons there derping in the back. Concave right now, though, heavily in favor of the Terran. So, one thing to note is that the new patch, it reduced the strength of that Liberator transition. So, the Liberator ranged upgrade, Advanced Ballistics, inside of the Fusion Core, it used to give you +3 range for the Liberators, now it gives you +2. Not very significant of a change, it's still going to be very powerful, but maybe it's making Clem ever so slightly more hesitant to start that transition up. Because the units are not going to pack as much of a punch. It would still be a good choice here, but it's expensive and it does make it a bit weaker, and do you really want to commit all that infrastructure to something that might not work out? Wow. Okay, so MaxPax actually 70 supply behind. Somehow alive. Split off right here, by the way, from the main army for Clem, as he's flying 4 medevacs towards the other side. Forcing a base race, I guess, would not be a bad choice. One cheeky little Widow Mine also just, okay, wandering around a little bit. GG ultimately is cold, though, as MaxPax has nothing to defend at home. He can't take on the main army, and he lost too much economy. Alrighty, next up, we find ourselves on a map called Crimson Court. I don't remember if I've casted any games on this map just yet. I think I've casted like maybe 1 or 2. Yeah, I think I've casted 1 or 2. This is also, I mean, as far as new maps go, this one is relatively normal, but that's mostly just because all of the other new maps are weird. This one is also a bit funky. So we've got ourselves a large main base, nothing all too weird. Jump up location over here, jump up location over here for Reapers. Another jump up location over there, actually. All of the new maps seem to have about a dozen jump up locations for Reapers. I'm not exactly sure as to why. But anyways. What's interesting about this map is that you have these mineral walls. So there are 4 of them set up around the map. We have another one over here at the bottom, another one over here. And essentially what they allow is more and more paths to expand into. So you have a 3rd base location right over here. And you can alternatively mine out these mineral fields and go for the 3rd base over in that location. If you really want to, you can take the risky base over out front. Pretty far away, but you do get a rich Vespian geyser. Other than that, the way to access the entire left section of the map as well as the bottom right section over here is by knocking down those rocks. So either you mine out the minerals or you knock down the rocks, or I guess you use flying units. But I would be very surprised if Terran decides to fly a command center across, although certainly something they could consider doing. Cool map design overall though. I think this may actually turn out to be one of the more popular new maps. Because we do have maps like, for example, Post-Youth, like, for example, Dynasty. I don't really know exactly what the balance on those maps is ultimately going to be. In my dreams, it would all be 50% for every matchup, but that's certainly not going to happen. I can actually have a quick little peek and see what the current win-loss ratios for this particular matchup are on this map at the tournament level. So Liquipedia keeps track of that. Okay. Terran versus Zerg on Crimson Court. It's a sample size of 8 games. But Terran has won all 8. Okay. Yeah, I think like siege tanks over behind this mineral field. Very tricky. What about Protoss versus Terran though? Maybe a little bit more relevant. Okay, so 18 games of Protoss versus Terran have been played at the tournament level on this map, with Protoss winning 10 of them. Not all too many games yet, but that's a reasonable win-loss ratio. Slight advantage right there for Protoss. Zerg not winning a single map, though, in a tournament on this map against Terran is kind of funny to me. In the Protoss versus Zerg matchup, Zerg has won 1 game. Protoss has won 5. So Zerg has a win rate of 16.7% against Protoss on this map and 0 against Terran so far. Now, obviously, those sample sizes are tiny. Can't really draw any conclusions, but initial impressions, I guess. Maybe not a great map for Zerg, but that's okay. We have a Terran and a Protoss in this game. Couple of depths going across. Good old blink upgrade once again. Got ourselves that quick starport here, at least quick compared to game number 1. And here's that new Cyclone. Ready to go around. Shooting the little missiles, dealing a bit of damage. Slightly more HP than it used to have, but its DPS should also be overall a little bit lower. Okay. This is very likely going to be a Widowmine drop. Albeit a Widowmine drop with most likely a couple Marines added into the mix too. This is the build that everybody and their mom on the StarCraft subreddit and Team Liquid and the Battle.net forums and stuff has complained about. I don't even think this build is that strong at the pro level, to be honest. Like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of the balance widening I see on the internet, I don't want to be a jerk about it, but I almost feel like sometimes it's a bit outdated. Where everybody's complaining about Widowmine drops like they are the most common build. I mean, they're common. But I rarely see players like MaxPax, and before I shoot myself in the foot here, and he is going to take a ton of damage here, but I rarely see players of the highest caliber really take a lot of damage from Widowmine drops. It is just one of the builds. He's bullying it right now with 2 Stalkers. It is, yeah, I don't know. I really don't think I think it's a bit overplayed. Sometimes there's this weird thing where somebody is like, hey, Widowmines are too strong. And then another guy is like, yeah, I agree, Widowmines are too strong. And then a third guy who'd never really thought about it is like, well, yeah, they are kind of strong. And then over the course of like the next 3 weeks, you get this weird situation where everybody's just complaining about Widowmines. Okay, beautiful control right here by MaxPax. Although he does end up losing a Stalker. Blinks them across. Okay. Anyways, what I'm saying is, like, yeah, I do agree that Widowmine was a little too strong, but I think the most significant change may just be the visual indicator. And the splash damage reduction, obviously, is also nice. But I really don't think the Widowmine drops were necessarily too strong. Too strong may not be necessarily the right word, though. But anyways, we have got MaxPax committing here to a big attack. How many gateways are we on? 4. Yeah, so he is ready to put on a ton of pressure. He does have a 3rd Nexus on the back of this, but this is much more committed than what we saw in game number 1 and 2. Obviously, in game number 1, we had a Stargate opener into Blink Stalkers, so obviously that changes the entire build. Okay, it's up to Clem right here to defend. So far, he's been doing a good job. He needs to deflect this to the best of his abilities. Aggressive Blink forward. Siege Tank goes down. Raven probably won't be too far behind. Although apparently we're going to just target the Marines for the time being. Okay. Good poking and prodding here. But ultimately, that is 8 Stalkers falling. And that has really taken a wind out of this Protoss' sails a little. I mean, he can continue warping in if he likes to. And I think he will continue this aggression. But Clem is starting to look pretty stable. Stimpack starts up right now. Charge also has begun on the other side of the map. Pro production for the 3rd Nexus also continues. MaxPax really just trying to squeeze as much Stalker juice as he can. Really trying to maximize the damage he can deal. Okay. Observer flying far forward. Okay, well, there's the big blink. There's the Siege Tank and the Raven going down. A little bit of derpage right here with the Stalkers. Might be time for MaxPax to retreat, but as we all know, MaxPax doesn't really retreat until he absolutely has to. One thing I will say about the Widowmine, and that is not something that's really been changed, but it is one of those units that is 10 times easier to play with than it is to defend. There's a bunch of units like that in the game. I think the Widowmine is probably the easiest example, where as the Terran, you don't really have to put in a lot of effort to potentially get a lot of damage. As the Protoss, so we do actually have a command center flying across that Widowmine now. Or sorry, that mineral line wall over here. Interesting. Anyways, as the Protoss, you need to put in a lot more actions in order to try and defend against the Widowmine. And that goes for the drop play as well. I just don't think that specific aspect of the Widowmine has really been changed. But also, this is an asymmetrically balanced game, right? Like, that is the entire purpose of it. That is what creates interest. And maybe the Widowmine, an extreme example of something that requires about 5 actions to execute and about 100 to defend. Alrighty, Observer over here does get found and it does get sniped. Stalkers do continue onwards. We're really putting in a lot of effort into that blink control. Big warp in over here as well as the Zealots are now available. Once again, 1 gas in the natural, 1 gas over at the 3rd base. Zealots now joining in the fray. 4th Nexus coming up out front. Clem up with his back against the wall for quite a while already. He does have Stimpack done, of course, at this point. Combat Shields is finished. +1/+1 about halfway done. Still forced to deal with such a tremendous amount of these Protoss units. Okay, blink over here aggressively onto the siege tank. Oh, denying this base would be absolutely massive. Look how much damage he's dealing actually to the SCVs as well. Marauders now showing up. Immortal misrallied. Careful now. Really lovely work here by MaxPax, but I don't think it ultimately gives him an advantage. Yeah, we're still talking 4 siege tanks right now set out front here. And that is going to make life much easier right here for our Terran player. The rich Vespian guys are apparently a little bit too tempting. MaxPax will be taking that one. Sentry gets warped in because of it. We have a Colossus coming up. Okay. Bit of deja vu from the previous game. But this one overall has been going a little bit better for MaxPax. So because of that, I wonder if MaxPax is going to be facing Liberators here. Oh, Clem making a big mistake. Tried starting up 2-2, forgot the Armory. Armory, by the way, cheaper now. Nobody asked for that. Every patch, there's like a bunch of changes that buff Terran that nobody asked for. I feel like the Armory gas cost reduction, so I think it's 50 gas cheaper now. Who asked for that? I have no idea. I don't think it's a big deal, but every patch that we've had ever since the Balance Council has been introduced in StarCraft 2, so like the last couple years, every patch has had a couple of those sneaky Terran buffs in there. Like, for example, the Liberator ranged buff. Or not the Liberator range buff, sorry, the Liberator cost reduction buff, where they are now 25 gas cheaper. That's already quite a while ago. Or the damage point difference for the Viking that makes them a little bit more microable. It's like all these things that in isolation really aren't that big of a deal. But I think there's a sneaky Terran player on the Balance Council who I feel like is going to be super whiny and who just somehow pushes a couple of these changes through. And Protoss does not have a whiny player like that, I don't think. They don't have somebody who really stands up for themselves, you know? Because they could have gotten a couple of sneaky buffs in there, I'm sure. Maybe like I don't know, a small cost reduction for this or a small cost reduction for that. Why did the Armory get 50 gas cheaper? Why are the 2-2 and 3-3 researches for the engineering base cheaper? I don't think anybody asked for that. I don't think it's really necessary at all. Anyways, I think the way that this goes is that there is a whiny Terran player in that balance group, maybe multiples. And somehow they're pushing in changes and Protoss, this is just a theory of mine, right? But Protoss does not have a player like that. Protosses are like, yes, I will guess, I will learn to deal with that. And the Terrans are like, no, I need something extra. Like, if you're gonna nerf my Widowmine, if you're gonna rework my Cyclone again, give me something to compensate. And apparently the Armory cost reduction is what we ended up with. Don't think it's significant, I don't think it really matters, but it is just an observation of mine that we seem to have something like that in every single game, in every single patch. Colossi shooting their little lasers. Yeah, up until the high ground. Quite love that positioning. SCVs hugging the Planetary Fortress. Planetary, however, not yet done. Disruptor joins in the fray as well. Okay. MaxPax really aggressive out on the map. Big warp in once again. He's not going to be able to, well, match Clem's maxed out army. Okay, let's see. Can he force the issue right now? Can he obtain the victory here? Loads of siege tanks over there, next to the Planetary Fortress, but obviously if they're over there, they're not helping out in this main fight. 9 SCVs have gone down. Okay, Archon's here, taking a bunch of damage. Oh my god. This is a sick push, actually, from MaxPax. I think he may just be able to win. I think we should see a warp in the main base or something along those lines to try and continue this aggression. Because right now we're just fighting in one area. There's 7 siege tanks essentially not participating in the defense at all. And that is making all of this so much better. MaxPax, I think we need to, like, create some chaos somewhere else. There is 1 missile turret over here, but there's definitely room for a warp in. Warps in 1 more zealot. Clem currently supply blocks. Siege tanks have been creeping towards this army. Good movement over here by Clem, though. Microing until he needs to stop running. And then immediately starts firing again with the Marines and the Marauders. A couple Vikings up in the air, targeting down those low HP Colossi. Wonderful work right there, once again, by the French Terran player, who does end up sniping 2 of them. It is now starting to strike back. Oh, Clem, you're so good, man. How did you even do that? So easy to accidentally lose from that position. This is an awkward moment where 2 dropships are trying to pass each other. No Marines, just Ghosts and Marauders, apparently. I think if the Protoss players in the Balance Council were more whiny and less agreeable, I think they would have at the very least been able to push through little things like a Tempest micro buff. You know how, like, Vikings basically fire as quickly as you set them up to a tech move? Tempest kind of feels like you're dragging them through the mud, and then eventually they shoot one of their big balls of whatever. Like, it's a unit that is largely ignored. I really feel like it mostly is because it's just not that microable. It just doesn't feel that good. And I know that it did get a couple buffs, but I think it could get more. Yeah. EMP deals so much damage as well. I think if they were more whiny, maybe they could have even pushed through a, I don't know, an EMP versus shield damage reduction. Because EMP deals so much damage, yet nobody really talks about it that much. Ooh, okay. Oh, big push here once again by MaxPax, trying to go through this choke point. Okay. Colossi dealing a lot of damage, but also taking a lot of damage. No easy way, it seems, for our Protoss to keep those alive. Clem, microing his butt off. Does grab a couple of the disruptors, that is. It does grab a couple of the Marines and the Marauders. A Ghost may have gone down as well. But it looks like Clem is starting to make a push happen towards the front over here. +3/+3, finishing up for the Terran eventually. Taking a new base over here as well, close to that main. There's the Shadow Strike research for MaxPax. Shadow Strike, another one of those things. Remember when they added like a half-second delay or so before the units attack after blinking? Nobody asked for that. I feel like if Protoss players were more whiny in the Balance Council, that change would have been reverted. But no. I don't even really know who exactly is on the Balance Council, but I can picture it. I can picture how these conversations go. Anyways, massive Terran army. Nothing can really engage all at the same time, though, until that entire force manages to go up towards the high ground. This warp in the main base is a critical one. Disruptor also added into the mix, by the way. Okay, it does get spotted. Good EMP right there by Clem. That is the way to reveal it. In the meantime, massive Zealot warp in on the other side of the map. They're going to be able to get rid of all of those siege tanks. And just like that, MaxPax cleans all of it up. Well, at least all of the important units. These units can run. They have little legs. Siege tanks, not so lucky. Siege tanks with legs would be terrifying. 9 Dark Templar, by the way, warped in. Alright. Moving towards the left side of the map. Obviously, this base, I mean, it's just a bunch of siege tanks, really. Okay. There's the Dark Templar. They kill the siege tanks in a heartbeat. Command center is in some trouble. Bunker goes down. Jimmy over here together with his pal. Sliced up into pieces. 6 SCVs only, but still very costly. There's the fusion core. So Clem is ready to make that Liberator range transition. And we are going to see that upgrade be a little bit, a little bit weaker. Large amount of Zealots over here as well. Oh, Terran may have just accidentally trapped the Protoss, though. Good army movement here by Clem once again. Clem is so good when it comes to microing against those disruptors. I just want to emphasize that for a moment, because we almost take it for granted at this level, but it's so easy to make the mistake and lose, well, all of that, for example. But no, he's targeting, he's microing, loses a few units here and there, sure, but I really feel like the disruptors have not really been that cost efficient. New base over on the right side of the map is also just finished up. MaxPax has been pushing here on the left, but so far not really getting that much done, as he steals one of the bases that would be the Terrans. Speaking of which, though, Clem has just scanned that base in the bottom right. He's making 4 disruptors at a time. He really does need to fire up the advanced ballistics research, because why otherwise bother with the fusion core? Base over at the bottom of the map denied by just a single zealot. Yeah, I think this map is going to give us some spectacular games. This is already a great example of exactly that. There's the ranged upgrade research. So from +3 to now +2. So this is what disruptors are really good at. Making the Terran dance. And that's ultimately making the Zealot and the Dark Templar run-bys more powerful, right? Because while the Terran is dancing here and microing at the front, their eyes are going to be pinpointed at all of those disruptors. That's when those Zealot run-bys can do a lot of damage, so I would love to see some more of those. Excellent stuff, really. Okay. Now, how good are those Liberators really? They're weaker, sure, but they're still going to be very powerful. And the problem is, Protoss usually sort of gets stuck on Stalkers. Originally, I think the plan was for Tempest to be able to counter those units, but transitioning towards the Tempest is tough. Like I said, Tempests don't feel particularly microable. So I really like this here from Clem. So basically, Clem is trying to go for this very defensive army, where ultimately the lurkers can the lurkers, well, they kind of do function like lurkers. The Liberators, they're like the light at the end of the tunnel, like lurkers can be against Terran. They're gonna make defending so much easier. Big push over here at the front. Repair, though, on the planetary fortress. Overextension here by Max. More Disruptor Novas do connect. All of the Zealots over here at the front. 9 SCVs have gone down. Only, 40-something workers right now remain right here for the Terran. Dang, he went straight up into the sky. Did you see that? MaxPax in the meantime, look at this guy. Taking the bottom right, taking the top left. He is absolutely cruising as far as economy goes, but he doesn't have a lot of gas. So it's a very Zealot-heavy army. Plus, still no reliable answer against those Disruptors. We're now talking nearly 40, or Disruptors. Still no reliable answer against these Liberators. I've called them Liberators, Lurkers, and Disruptors now. Sick. There's 14 of them very soon, and that is a ton. Stalkers, sure, kind of, but not really. +2 Liberators, pack a punch, man. Love the planetary fortress, by the way, over here. It's so powerful. Yeah, this has been an anchor in the entire play right here of Clem. 8 SCVs, by the way, killed by one of those Liberators too. Another Liberator in the bottom right-hand corner. 4 of them together. Oh, again! Disruptor Nova just barely did not connect. Clem stood his ground there. What an absolute madman. Okay, wins this fight easy peasy. Doesn't even really need his Liberators. Or his Lurkers. Or his Disruptors. I know. Crazy. He doesn't have 2 of those 3 units, so. Anyways. Now the Libs are moving forward. And they are creating massive don't fight here circles. EMP. Try and get some vision. Or at the very least a little bit of space to maneuver. Looks like the Stalkers there have cleared out the Lib in the bottom right-hand corner as well as the one in the top left. This has bought Clem a ton of time, though. Who's been setting up a lot of bases. Not quite as many as our Protoss, but he is finding himself with a beautiful angle. Alright. Let's see. Stalkers, try to join in. Okay. Snatch one of those medevacs. Yeah, I kind of feel like you need Disruptors or something at this point. Like, Stalkers, a tier 1 unit against Liberators, feels really rough. But Tempest just feel really tricky to transition into because it slows down the entire game, and that's exactly what Clem is aiming for. So MaxPax is trying to put his foot on the gas, trying to get to a position where he can continuously hit his opponent in the face, and Tempest transition just doesn't quite line up with that. He wants to win this game with Stalkers and Zealots, and so far it's been going well, but we're getting to a point where this Terran army is absolutely powerful. Now, great movement here once again by the Danish Protoss player. Finds himself in a position where this is dealing a ton of damage. In the meantime, though, fight over in the top left-hand corner. Nothing to defend right here for MaxPax, so that is going to be the end of that base. Bunch of probes end up going down as well. Disruptors once again moving to the front. Clem still not really taking a massive hit. Snipes another one. Oh, great splits. Fantastic splits. Obviously, those disruptors, though, are the reason why we have so many liberators coming. Hard for Terran to deal with those things without really having any of the liberators up in the air. So it's a double-edged blade, really. I don't think Protoss really wants to play against liberators, but they're kind of forcing them out by going into those disruptors. Okay, siege tanks dealing a lot of damage. Alright, quite a bit of damage here being done, though, by MaxPax, but ultimately, Clem does not seem to be rolling over. Where are all those liberators, by the way? We've got so many of them. Okay, there's a bunch of them set up, I guess, around the map. There's finally a decent Nova. Stalkers do find one of the libs. Yeah, so with the -1 range reduction on the liberators, this specific army right here that MaxPax is playing should be slightly more powerful. A lot of units here are falling, though. In the meantime, push over here in the top left-hand corner as well. New Nexus being made here. Command Center also wants to be set up in that exact same spot. Okay. Looks like Clem actually managed to push all of this back. Dude, Clem is insanely good at microing his army. Ay, ay, ay. It really felt like he was in so much trouble there, but it never really... Oh, he even picked up the ghost there inside of the Medivacs. Yeah, he never really looked like he was gonna roll over, right? Like, there have been so many moments where it really felt like it was on the edge, where everything was just about to topple and things were just about to go terrible for the Terran player, but that never really happened. Base in the middle of the map stayed alive, base on the left side of the map stayed alive. Fight over here at the bottom, similar situation too. And ultimately, we now end up with a situation where those late-game Terran units are just so cost-efficient, despite the fact that MaxPax has been mining a lot more than our Terran player has. GG is called. It's gonna be Clem who obtains the victory. Brilliant stuff by the Frenchman. Next up, we find ourselves on a map called Alcyone. I've fast-forwarded through the first 2 minutes of the game because, well, I'm sure you've seen a game of TVP on this particular map. Should I pull up the stats as well, by the way, for this one? This one should give us a large sample size. So, Terran vs. Protoss, 310 tournament games since early October-ish, with 45% of them going in favor of the Protoss. So, slight Terran favored, or ever so slightly rather Terran favored. A lot of the situations here around this watchtower seem to be really good for Terran. And obviously the golden mineral shenanigans in this bottom section of the map. I mean, it reminds me a little bit of Crimson Court. This bottom section of the map, just like what we saw on the previous, in the previous game, just a few minutes ago. That also seemed like quite a good location for the Terran at the time. Stargate opener here, this time around for MaxPax. Fairly sure, when MaxPax plays the style that he just did, right, where he just piles on the pressure with Stalkers and Zealots, and he just hits his opponent at 17 angles at once, and he micros as well as he does against all of those Liberators, I'm pretty sure he wins against everything. I think he wins against everybody, except for Clem, and maybe for Maru. I really do feel like Clem in that situation is better than Maru, though, but anyways, it'll be relatively close. That is mostly a personal opinion, I guess. That being said, I feel like MaxPax, when he practices on the ladder, he will win every single one of the games that he plays from that position, unless he's playing against Clem on the European server. I don't see how any other Terran is going to be able to hold on. So, phenomenal play right there by Clem. Really showing us what the man is capable of. Quite a bit of aggression over here. Oh, he really wants the Hellion. Does not get the Hellion. Lovely work once more. Alrighty, 2 Cyclones coming up. And it'll take us a little bit. Dude, there's birds outside. I don't know if you can hear the birds chirping. Maybe I'll have to increase the volume of my music. Now, generally speaking, my microphone seems to be pretty good. My audio setup seems to be pretty good at not picking up any background noise. Although the birds chirping is kind of sweet, I guess. I've given this trial runs, by the way. This is like a bit of a meta video game. So basically, this is completely irrelevant to this game, okay? But bear with me. Basically, the room right next to the one that I'm currently in has my laundry machine, okay? My laundry machine, my dryer, right? There's a right setup right over there. I have experimented with this in the past to see if you guys can hear the laundry machine whilst it's running. So I used to think when I first moved in here that it was gonna get very noisy, and it really is quite noisy in real life, but the microphone barely picks it up. And when there's some noise going on in the background, like for example this music right now, you will not be able to tell. And I have like sniped the YouTube comment section. I have paid very close attention. I have tried turning on the laundry machine, I've tried turning off the laundry machine in the middle of my videos to try and see if anybody commented on it. And you know what? None of you have, maybe you noticed, but none of you have commented about it. So if one day you hear a lot of noise in the background and you're like, oh my god, Lowko, your audio setup sucks, it might be my laundry machine. Oh man, I'm telling you guys, I'm spilling all my secrets today. What a terrible thing. Really shooting myself in the foot now, am I not? It's gonna be Phoenixes into Colossi. It's gonna be bio units into upgrades for our Terran player. And for our Protoss player, of course, too. He's gonna be getting his good old ranged upgrade for the Robotics Bay. For the Colossi. The Extended Thermal Lance. That was my nickname in college. Anyways. Robo Bay. Robo Bay was my nickname. Yeah. Anyways. 3rd Command Center flying on over down towards the low ground, and it looks like both of these players are happy to play the macro game. Now, one style that we have seen a bunch from Protoss lately, and I don't really love it, but it is something that has gone... It's gone, yeah, I was gonna say viral, but that doesn't really make sense. It's become a little bit more popular, especially on the ladder. Protoss players just sitting back and going straight into, like, Tempest and Carriers and the whole shebang. I don't love that style, personally. I think the mass gateway approach is a lot more fun to watch. But basically, that is the style that you play when you don't want to mess with Liberators again. I feel like if MaxPax can figure out a way to go from that super aggressive style with Zealots and Stalkers and transition it towards those Carriers and Tempest relatively smoothly, I think he would be onto something at that point. But obviously that also gives up a lot of that map control, and maybe it would be impossible to keep the Terran contained at that point. I'm not exactly sure. But anyways, maybe like figuring out a mix of those two styles would be really neat. And I think a small Tempest buff would really help with that. Or maybe make the Fleet Beacon slightly cheaper to produce. Something like that, you know? If the Armory can get a 50 gas reduction, I think the Protoss players in the Balance Council could wind themselves, or at least wind continuously until like the Fleet Beacon gets a 50 gas reduction too, right? Like the Armory is played in every game. There it is. The Fleet Beacon, we rarely see it, and it's so expensive. That's kind of the problem, I guess, you run into with that Skytos transition. Let me just pull up the... I'm thinking it's 200 gas and 300 minerals. Am I wrong? Yeah, it's 300 minerals, 200 gas. That's insane. Like, that's the cost of a Fleet Beacon. So, an Armory is 150 minerals and 50 gas. Kind of feel like it should be alright. Anyways, obviously you gotta be careful as well. Gotta be careful what you wish for, Lowko, because making the Fleet Beacon cheaper also means that that transition is much easier to do against Zerg. And well, I think I've made myself quite clear when it comes to playing Skytos as Protoss against Zerg. I don't love that. But anyways, I'm just thinking out loud here. But I kind of feel like the Protoss players in the Balance Council, usually, I think they're a bit of a punching bag. They need a little bit of assertiveness training, you know? Something to, yeah, show themselves better. Maybe take a page out of the Terran's book. I really feel, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm too far down this rabbit hole right now and I can't see a way out anymore. But I really feel like that is what's going on. 24 pro gamers in a group chat. The Protoss players are like, oh yes, no, I agree with that. And the Terran players are like, no, if you're gonna nerf all of this, I want this in return. And the Protoss are like, okay, that seems reasonable. Minus 50 gas on the armory. Let's make the infantry +2 and +3 upgrades a little cheaper too. Anyways, in the meantime, the Zergs are just smiling. The Zergs are just like, yeah, no, you guys fight it out. We will just win every tournament. Alrighty, big army coming across the map right now. MaxPax has been building this up for a while. 4th Command Center building on the left side of the map. Prism going around towards the main base is gonna get no, okay, it's dead. Zealots here charging away, and that honestly really takes the wind out of the sails right here for MaxPax. Yeah. That aggression, the one that he was going for, can't really continue it without that prism warping in. Left this factory, by the way, over here that would scout any prism that could come in from that side of the map. We have 6 Cyclones waiting inside of the main base, ready to snipe whatever Zealot run by he's expecting. +2/+2, just about to finish up for the Terran. That is going to make life a whole lot nicer for him, because suddenly his units are going to pack a punch. MaxPax expanding all over the map again, taking the bottom section of the map, already taking the top left with the rich Vespene Geyser. Oh, okay, nicely done. Disruptors once again getting denied. Dude, Clem is so good when it comes to not dying to Disruptors, it's wild. Couple interference matrices going down as well, preventing damage from a lot of these units. Anti-armor missile also incredibly handy. Clem has gotten so good at playing defensively, I guess. He's trying to build up the Iron Bank. Building a bunch of command centers. Adding whatever he can into the mix. Good Novas, though, end up going down. Not today. Okay, Siege Tank there takes a bunch of damage. Picks up the Ghosts. Cyclones ultimately do come down from the main base towards the low ground, because they are apparently also a necessity when it comes to pushing back this army. Where is the War Prism? Do we even have one? No, at this point there's no War Prism. Problem with losing the Prism is not even just the cost of the Prism and how slow it is, right, to remake. But also, you need to kind of like restart. You need to occupy time inside of the Robo facility. Now, MaxPax does have triple Robo, which is actually kind of cool. So he should be able to replace them relatively easily. Okay, a lot of damage here being done. Stalkers and Zealots charging away at whatever they can. Another Colossus does get sniped though by those Vikings. 2 Ghosts get nipped in the butt. MaxPax ready to put on the pressure. We really do need a Prism though. Without like close by warpins, all the warpins have to go across the map. Takes a while for them to arrive. Medivac's now entirely out of energy. So no healing anymore. Every stim pack becomes a lot more precious. +3 ground weapons started up as well here for Clem, who is still alive. Ay. This is what I'm talking about though. Like, when MaxPax, I feel like I've said that exact line 17 times already in this video. This is what I'm talking about. But this is what I'm talking about. I feel like MaxPax at this situation has won against every professional Terran out there, except Clem, and probably Maru. But everybody else, this is so much pressure to be under. It's so easy to take a Nova to the face. Lifting up the command center there too to create a little bit more space. MaxPax. Getting pushed back a bit now. How in the world is Clem actually microing against this sort of stuff? It's insane. Okay, we're gonna go for additional gateways. We're gonna go for a golden base. +3 armor starts up as well. We have the Shadow Stride research already done. That is the research to make those Dark Templar a little bit more blinkable. Fusion Core coming up though for Clem. Clem ready to try and get into those Liberators once again. He's already making them. He's already researching +2 air. He's ready to put in the work. And Liberators, I mean, I misspoke and called them Lurkers earlier, but they really do kind of feel like Lurkers in the sense that as soon as you get enough of them out, Protoss is going to have a very hard time continuously pushing. Bunch of Liberators in the choke point. What are you going to do? Oh, we have a Disruptor coming from the right side of the screen as well. That guy very over-eager. Zealots and Dark Templar set up. I don't think you guys should do that. Nope, you're going to die. Go back home. 4 Colossi? Okay, I was going to say, that's insane. No, 4 Immortals start up instead. MaxPax is Mass Robo style. Very cool. Now, I say very cool, but at the same time, it's Mass Robo against somebody who's going Mass Liberator. I love the idea of Mass Robo. I just don't know if it's good. Apparently, MaxPax looked at that previous game and was like, you know what? I needed some more punching power. Maybe the Liberators weren't the main concern of his. Maybe actually just getting through those army units like the Marauders and stuff a little bit easier. Because this is a very Marauder-heavy army. Okay. So no transition towards Skytles. That's the main thing to note here. This would be an alternative solution. MaxPax got plenty of minerals and gas in the bank right now, but no transition towards Skytle. Ah, okay, I was gonna say. Okay, I think this is a good choice, yeah. He seemed so confident not playing it, but I think 2 additional Stargates right now. Going into the Fleet Beacon. +1 air weapon startup. Okay, MaxPax is gonna make the transition towards Carriers and Tempest here. Maybe a Mothership. Okay, now this immediately means though, oh my god, overextension here by MaxPax. Clem snipes a ton of very expensive units here. He'll be more than happy to open up some more supply to add on even more Liberators. We only have 6 right now. That's peanuts, man. We want to have at least like 15. Zealots and Dark Templar, no, it's actually only Dark Templar, have somehow, some way made their way into the main base. Quite like that, but they have Blink, of course. They can go past those supply depots easy peasy. They're trying to go after all the missile turrets, all the detection, but at this point in time, there should be plenty of orbital comments available. More of them are coming up in case there aren't. And this is creating a lot of chaos. The thing is, this is kind of like Widow Mines, right? So like a cheap... like Widow Mines are like one of those things that like take very few actions to execute, but a lot of actions to defend against. This is kind of like that, but the Widow Mines are 10 times cheaper than a big warpin of those Dark Templar. Either way, this is giving MaxPax a lot of time to go into the Carriers. 3 Carriers on the production tab, 3 Disruptors on the back of this too. Everything comes in 3s though, and that includes the +3 air weapons here. Hello. I think he should try and kill that dude. He wants SCVs. He wants guaranteed damage, so he just goes after whatever he can. Entire Terran army, Joe, for just a moment, does decide to turn around. Okay. Scan does reveal it. 1 depot is apparently all we're gonna get. Clem maneuvering around, adding on additional Vikings. Does he realize that he is playing against Skytles at this point? Well, yeah, he has seen it. He knows exactly what his opponent is capable of. Scanning that main base, getting that vision that he needs. Disruptors, once again, pushing back a lot of his army. At this point, it's not a ton of Skytles yet, though. More Dark Templar going around the site. Tempest startup. Okay. Nexus here does get killed. But at the same time, a lot of SCVs have also gone down, but not quite as many as the probes. One of the bases here that normally would be considered the Terrans is being stolen here by MaxPax, and Clem does not realize it. 3 Tempests on the production tab, +2 air weapons coming up as well. More Dark Templar going on, man. Those Dark Templar are really expensive. Yeah, 17 of those going down. Like, he's feeding them away like they are Zealots, but they're really pricey. A lot of the Disruptors end up getting sniped. That was expensive too right there for Max. Clem losing a bunch of Marines and Marauders, but those are things he can quite easily replace. I think that must have been like half of those disruptors that have gone down in total in this game. Great cleanup right there by Clem. Nexus in the bottom right-hand corner, also done. Wonder if MaxPax should even consider maybe making additional probes here. Anyways, this is gonna be the first time that Clem will properly have to fight these disruptors. Or these disruptors? These Tempest. My god. I don't know unit names today, guys. I don't know what it is. In my defense, I've only played this game for about a decade and a half. So you can't really expect me to, you know a Tempest from a Tempest. Or a Liberator. Or a Disruptor. Or a Lurker somehow. How did I get to Lurkers? Nobody knows. 2 additional Stargates coming up. High-sec auto-tracking here. Researching for Clem. He doesn't have a lot of money. But apparently he deems that upgrade important enough. That is the +1 ranged for missile turrets and for planetaries and stuff. Okay, Tempest putting in a bunch of work though. Okay, big charge forward as well. A lot of the ghosts are quite exposed. Accidental rep god. The ghosts are exposed. Okay, no, I won't continue my freestyle rep. I don't think anybody wants to hear that. AI would do a better job than me. Vikings shooting wherever they can. Stalkers underneath though. Not that many Liberators in this section of the map. Disruptor once again denied. Clem microing his butt off. He seems to escape with death so many times. Clem is like a cat. He's got 70 lives though. He's like 10 cats. At the very least as agile. Insane. Vikings in the meantime clearing out all of the Skytals. Couple of snipes going down apparently on Zealots just to rub salt in the wound. And suddenly, after that exchange, Clem finds himself with a massive lead in the supply count. Resources lost heavily in favor of the Terran. Ay, ay, ay. Tactical nuke researching. Hard to pinpoint exactly where it goes wrong for MaxPax, right? It's just that Clem is playing so well. What exactly is MaxPax doing wrong? I'm not even entirely sure. I think he needs to do the same thing, but better. That seems to be the general gist of things. Now, he's still got a lot of money. He's still maxed out. He's still ahead when it comes to the bank, too. It's just that those fights are insane for Clem. And obviously, Clem has been building up the Iron Bank. We are at 7 orbital commands and 1 command center that still needs to morph into an orbital command. So he's going up to about 10 or so of them, with 1 more command center on the production tab. Yeah. And when you get to 10 orbitals, you can get money for days. If you don't pay attention to the bottom section of the map for a little bit, you don't see how many minerals and gas are available for them for a while, suddenly Terran will be so far ahead in that department. When those mules really start bringing in the money and when he doesn't need to build infrastructure anymore, life gets smooth for the Terran. Stalkers blinking forward once again. Zealot's trying to find an angle, but he knows there's a planetary fortress there in the back and it makes it difficult for Protoss to really commit. Okay, he's trying to find an angle. Even the Liberators right now joining in with their air-to-air attack. Usually pretty terrible, but apparently against a bunch of those interceptors, it might just be okay. Very ghost-heavy army, by the way, yeah. We're at 11 ghosts here, only 3 Marines, or 3 Marauders and 4 Marines in total. Some of them are inside of the bunker. Liberator over here denying some of that mining too, by the way, of 4 of those mineral fields. That's half of that base. Liberator now sieges up over on this expansion too. Carriers are coming up, 5 Stalkers get warped in. That's gonna be MaxPax completely maxed out. They will be able to get rid of that lib, though. Okay. So MaxPax going for a bit more of a bulldozer approach. Mass carrier. Do we like mass carrier? I feel like you might need Storm or something like that in the mix. Problem is, the Viking count is going to explode as soon as Clem realizes exactly what he's playing against. And it's already getting to that point. He's already made a ton of Vikings and he's adding on more now. Against clumped up units, actually, the Liberators actually do, yeah, quite a bit of damage. Okay, gold base once again tonight. Liberator decides to re-siege up on top of that entire mineral line. Apparently, He wants everything, and that's a bunch more probes that will find their death over there. Tactical nuke flies across the screen. I just caught the tail end of the smoke. But this is a base that is quite exposed, although the ghost is also within vision range right there, and it ends up going down. Probes can continue mining over here if they want to. Mothership starts up here for MaxPax. That might be a good addition for him. Second Ghost Academy. So we have 2 Ghost Academies here in total. The only reason to bring a second Ghost Academy is if you want to go multiple nukes. Insane. Great game. Clem right now though, look at the bank. This is what I was talking about. You don't pay attention for a minute or two, suddenly Clem's bank is massive and Protoss is starting to dwindle. This base may have been mined by the Protoss for a while, but Clem is ready to take control of it. In the meantime though, MaxPax has found himself on the other side of the map, getting a pretty good engagement so far. Vikings microed backwards, but as long as all of those interceptors on top of this army, they can deal a lot of damage. EMP though, man. EMP is so strong. Preventing that entire army from moving forward. Those ghosts putting in a ton of work. I always wonder why people don't complain about EMP. I see people complain about like parasitic bomb and about sonic storm and all the freaking time, right? We see that very often. Nobody ever complains about EMP, even though I would wager that EMP is the more powerful of all of those spells. I'm not even joking. It's at the very least as powerful. I think my current working theory, why nobody ever completely worries about EMP, I think that EMP is just not as flashy in animation. It just doesn't look very impressive. It doesn't look like it deals a ton of damage, but it's continuously forcing MaxPax back in this game. It is dealing so much damage. It's probably dealing upwards of like 1,000 damage per EMP when units are clumped up like that. It's insane. Like, Storm deals 80 damage over the course of multiple seconds. Obviously, 2 units clumped up together. But EMP is practically instant, and it's just, it's so powerful. I'm not saying people should complain more, though. Don't get me wrong, but... Big recall towards the bottom right-hand corner. The mothership really enabling this fight. And suddenly, okay, Clem is gonna have to fly his entire crew of units towards the bottom right-hand corner of this map too. I wonder if MaxPax though should get out. He does have Storm coming up right now. Yeah, this is super late. I think this should have been here minutes ago. Without Storm, it's gonna be difficult to keep those Vikings at bay. Obviously, EMP also removes energy out of units though. It doesn't just deal damage to the shields. So... those ghosts are still going to be a formidable target against this entire Protoss army. Okay. Oh, Zealots, you guys are looking happy, but I think you need to run. Even though this base may have been gone for a little bit, Clem has got plenty of command centers and more missile turrets coming up. So he's going to just replace this and continue mining here for a little bit longer. It was a costly exchange though. Oh, that Liberator over here too. A mule has been dropped to try and repair it back up to full, and it will indeed start gaining some health once again. MaxPax has got to be so cautious right now. He actually doesn't have a lot of money anymore, and he's not maxed out. He's not maxed. He's not even paxed. What are you gonna do at that point? What do you do when a man is no longer paxed? I don't know. Golden minerals will be mined. But I got a feeling that we are watching a Protoss player slowly fizzle out. Clem has been in utter control of this game from what seems to be the very beginning to what will likely be the very end. Sure, there have been moments where he's been caught off guard. Sure, it looked like MaxPax was going to be able to tip the scales eventually, but Clem is just on another level. Yeah, Clem is genuinely very good. Once again, we have that Protoss army suddenly appearing up north. Recall was used on the Nexus. So we will see a base going down. Is the Mama ship still around? She is. She's at the bottom of the map. She does have recall available. So I'm assuming we will see this army zap towards the bottom section of the map. There we go. Love this. I love this engagement and this interaction so much. I think it's so cool. Especially from like a fantasy, science fiction approach, you know? Those high-tier units zapping around the map, going everywhere where you least expect them. Here comes the run of shame towards the bottom right-hand corner once again. Last time around, it went pretty darn good for MaxPax. This time around, Storm is in the mix. So, yeah, maybe being cautious here is the right call. Disruptors moving forward. Ghosts do get popped. 13 probes have already gone down. We're gonna need to see some good storms. Okay, Nexus over here. I think it is gonna get killed eventually. EMP, EMP, big EMP. A lot of those Archons suddenly find themselves without shields. That's what I'm talking about. That must have been at least 1,000 damage in one EMP. That's mental. For an instacast, I actually think it's a little overtuned. I think it has been overtuned for like 5 years. Don't really hear a lot of people complaining about EMP, but I really do believe it is insanely strong. There's no real counterplay for Protoss, right? Like that's the issue you run into. It'd be nice if like maybe if you had like a Sentry with Guardian Shield up, that it would mitigate some of that damage or something like it, you know? Anyways, here's another Ghost moving forward. The counterplay for Protoss is to snipe the Ghost, but there are so many of them that it's easier said than done. Ooh, probe there ends up, or not probe, sorry, observer ends up getting sniped. This base is gonna get destroyed. Yeah, Clem is playing this like a god. Just, other than those recalls, sort of catching him off guard, he's been doing a phenomenal job. Just going around the map and seemingly everywhere and in control of everything. Okay, that time warp though is a painful one. Mothership does end up getting sniped. We have a lot of Liberators now using their air-to-air attack once again on purpose. It's a lot of libs. Yeah, this is 9 Liberators, so their air-to-air, I mean, it usually kind of feels like sentries that are tickling you, you know? But they really do put in quite a bit of work. Bit of an overextension over there though, but Vikings are looking for an angle and they find an angle as well. Snipe one of those Colossi, it seems. Colossi? Carriers. Starts with a C. It's a Protoss unit. I was close. Okay. Base over here, actually, once again under control for MaxPax. MaxPax taking control of these bases is actually kind of surprising to me. I really thought that he was not going to be able to get it going. He is finding himself with about a 30 supply deficit. 8 more Vikings are spawning though, and that is a lot. Clem doesn't really want to let go of this position, and before all of those Vikings arrive, I do think there's an opportunity here for Max, although EMP once again slowing down the advancement here, or maybe it should slow down the advancement. I think MaxPax also is feeling the heat though, so he realizes that something is just a little too scary here. He wants to move in over into the bottom right-hand corner of the map. Loads more units are popping out of the Terran's main base right now, and Clem's supply lead is being extended. GG is cold. And there it is. Ultimately, Clem wins this series 3-1, but what an amazing match. Really hope you enjoyed watching it. If you made it all the way until the end of this video, please take the 1 second that it takes to hit the like button down below. And if you really enjoyed it and you want to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get notified as soon as future videos go live. For now though, have a great rest of your day. Don't forget to smile. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you once again very soon for another video.